Okay, I've let the epoxy mix rest in this foil tray for a little while. Looking at it, there's virtually no bubbles at all. Clearly, as I'm used to working with this material, I can see some very fine bubbles, but we won't worry too much about that. My preference is to put it on by hand. Some people like to have it rotating. So just enough to cover it and cover the edge where you're putting the finish on. Now, first of all, we're doing the side which has got 2 coats of colour preserver. Then we're doing the side which has got no colour preserver. And I'm expecting completely different results. And again with this one up here, the single foot guide, just over the edge of the thread and then along the length of the thread. Just a little dab at the side of the rise here, a little dab just here in this corner, because there's a hollow. What you want is the mix to actually go down that hollow. You don't want any air trapped in there if you can help it. There we are. I've put that in, move the finish out of the way, and now I'm going to start the rotary dryer. Without it turning, you can see the teardrop just starting to form on the underside of this one. And if you leave it without it turning, then gradually all the resin will come to one side, some will drop off, and you'll end with a bulge on one side. So let's get it turning, and that ensures even distribution. As you look at it, you think, well, there's no bubbles. From my experience and with my eye, yes, there are bubbles. So you need to apply heat. Some people say use a hairdryer. Well, yep, you can use a hairdryer, but if you have a room which has got a little bit of dust in, I can guarantee that one piece of dust will go through your hairdryer, hit the epoxy resin, and if you don't see it, when your resin has dried, you'll have a whisker or two just sticking up, and it will spoil the finish. Probably the easiest way is to say, well, I use the nightlight to help heat the hot melt glue. Could I use that? Well, you could, but the problem is a candle, once it starts to burn, will give off a black smoke. Not necessarily visible to the eye, but when you put it under your thread, I guarantee it will smoke the finish. So I do not recommend using a candle. For simplicity, I'm going to recommend an alcohol burner. Very low flame, and you'll notice I'm not holding the flame there long, I'm just generating enough heat to burst the bubbles. You can see the epoxy's become very thin and viscous, and we've got a teardrop forming. If that teardrop comes off, I'm not worried. It's just the excess which I don't want on the thread. This one the same. And then the final one at this end. Now that has removed all the bubbles. You can see the excess dropping off the one on the single foot guide. Let's close this up. And now this will turn. Depending on the ambient temperature of your room, it could be anything from 6 to 12 hours. Okay, hopefully we now have got in some close-ups. Here is the fluoro pink thread. This has got 2 coats of colour preserver and is, I would suggest, between 80 and 90% of the original colour of the thread. Here we have no colour preserver. it is pure nylon, and it has gone semi-translucent. And as I said, when you are building your rod or repairing your rod, make certain you do some experimentation. Use a piece of dowel, wood, put the thread on and see what happens when you apply your finish. Because there's nothing worse than when you build your rod, you actually get the wrong colour of thread at the end of the day. The thread can be contaminated from your hands. If they're greasy or sweaty, they can be the thread can be contaminated in many different ways. Cleanliness, I would suggest to you, is very important. So, thread with 2 coats of colour preserver, the same thread with no colour preserver. And this can go quite happily until the morning.